This is Chet Huntley reporting. As a newsman, I've traveled over a good share of the world on the trail of a story. But sometimes we're apt to forget that news is being created right under, and in this case, over our very noses. I'm referring to what's taking place today on the lines of our country's rural electric systems. Many of us remember that these rural electrics sprang into being over a generation ago when our rural people were unable to get power from commercial power companies. So they organized their own systems, cooperatives, or in a couple of states, power districts. They brought rural America out of the darkness. But today, the rural electric system is filling a different kind of void. It's a story seldom in the headlines that few of us hear about, but one that contains enough of the elements of human drama to make it newsworthy. Come along and let's see for ourselves. Main Street today reflects the decline that's taken place throughout many areas of rural America, with individual farm income less than half our national average, with employment opportunities for farm youth steadily shrinking, along with a number of our nation's farms. What's left for these young people? An out-migration from the farm to the city. You can see it all over the country. Untrained rural youth hoping to find jobs and security in the city, but most of them finding only a place in the lines of the unskilled and the unemployed. Meanwhile, they leave behind a stagnant economy. Thousands of empty homes and idle resources. This, in many areas of our country today, is rural America. But lately, in this picture of growing economic decay, a new power is being felt. There are about 1,000 rural electric systems in America. They serve nearly 20 million people, about 10% of our nation's consumers. This is one of them, an electric cooperative in the southern Appalachians, an area that has long known the problems of a depressed economy. This cooperative employs a highly skilled staff of 150 people. In all, throughout the nation, rural electrics employ nearly 30,000 people with an annual payroll of over $140 million. Money being pumped into our rural economy every day. Exciting new things have been happening in the 8 surrounding counties served by this cooperative. Activity generated by the people of this region, taking a hard look at the facts of rural decline, then doing something about them with the Rural Electric Cooperative in the lead. Result, a wide array of new industries, from paper products to the raising of chicken, from textiles to food processing, from furniture manufacturing to electronics. In all, 6,000 new jobs, plus hundreds of new homes for young people who no longer look upon rural life as a dead end, who are now building their future here instead of flocking to the cities and draining the area of its youth. How did all of this happen? Essentially through the Rural Electric Cooperative, joining with other community leaders, town and county officials, merchants, bankers, businessmen, to encourage the development of this area's total resources, with the result that in a matter of a few years, the per capita income of rural people in this region has more than doubled. That, in a capsule, is the case history of the revival of one rural area through leadership of the Rural Electric Cooperative. But there are hundreds of such stories all over the country, telling how our nation's rural electric systems are responding to the needs of their communities. As you know, our federal, state, and local governments have long been concerned about the need for rural development. Today, the combined force of many programs is trained on that problem. But all of these programs call for someone at the community level to pick up the ball and run with it. In a great many cases, the principal ball carrier is the Rural Electric Cooperative. Why? Because in many areas it's the largest single business enterprise in the rural community, because it has a trained staff, because it has widespread contacts in the area, all helpful in forming a development council or in raising money or evaluating local resources. The pattern varies. For example, take this region. The Rural Electric Cooperative on its own started an industrial park. Elsewhere, it sparked a development association, which, with the help of a government program, put to use a long unused local resource. In another case, the contribution may simply be low-cost electricity, an important development factor in itself. But in every case, our nation's rural electric systems are fulfilling an important mission, serving the interests of our rural economy and those of their own members, which is, in fact, the same thing. Here in another area are some of the people who own and run America's rural electric systems, gathered for the annual meeting of their own co-op. These consumers are also owners in their non-profit cooperative. Electing from among themselves their own board of directors. Today, the word pioneer is considerably overworked. But for me, at least, there's no better way to describe people like these, whose family roots are embedded deep in our nation's heritage. Some 30 years ago, their parents faced another crisis, when no one came forth to electrify our rural areas. So they united with their neighbors, rolled up their sleeves, and with the help of REA loans, which they are repaying with interest, did the job themselves. Today, another generation is facing an equally tough challenge, the need to pour new life into our rural areas. And again, through their electric cooperatives, they're doing the job. But rural development is only one side of the story of the Rural Electric Cooperative's contribution to modern-day life. Next time you're in the country, take a look at the power line. Chances are it belongs to a rural electric system. For today, the rural electrics serve most of the land mass of America, the tough, non-rewarding part, where the rural electrics average only 3 1/3 consumers per mile of line, compared to the 33 customers per mile averaged by commercial power companies. In many remote areas of our nation, the rural electrics line was already there. Therefore, our government was able to erect quickly various kinds of defense installations, vital to the security of our people. And so today, from Alaska across our northern tier of states, as well as in many other areas of our country, you'll find hundreds of missile and other defense installations on the line of our rural electric systems, part of their contribution to the space age and the security of all Americans. In fact, the line of the rural electric system may supply power for the radar system that guides a jet airliner, or for a new all-electric housing project that's pushed out beyond the city limits into the countryside. This once non-fruitful territory, always served by the rural electric system, has developed as people moved into the area. The entire region benefits, both suburban development and scattered consumers in the outlying area, by the availability of electricity to everyone. The farm is still there, however, and still the backbone of our rural electric systems. Today, practically all farms have electricity, and most of these are served by the rural electric system. A far cry from 30 years ago, when only 1 out of 10 farms was electrified. During this span of time, low-cost electricity has helped revolutionize American farm productivity. A revolution that has extended into the farm home as well. Mechanization on the American farm, with low-cost farm electricity contributing to our amazing farm efficiency that is reflected at every city supermarket, a major factor in bringing fresh, high-quality foods at low cost to everyone. And there's still another way urban dwellers benefit. For the 5 million member owners of our rural electric systems, will provide a $1.25 billion market for appliances this year, creating jobs for many thousands of workers in all the industries related to the manufacture and distribution of electrical equipment. Also creating a tremendous demand for power, as every 7 years, the power loads of our rural electric systems are doubling, requiring construction of new facilities to keep abreast of this demand. That, in brief, is the story of America's dynamic rural electric systems. Basically, it's a story of people. It's a story being created by men like these, managers and directors of rural electric cooperatives working with other community leaders, supported by millions of rural electric consumers. Together, they're doing a job that benefits all segments of our society, both urban and rural, as they provide a yardstick to help determine what the cost of electricity should be, as they contribute to our national strength, to our national security, to our national health, to a growing, expanding America, with the rural electric system in the forefront of the forces helping to power the progress of our nation. Well, thanks for joining me. And speaking of getting something on the line, I've got a job to do myself.